All right, good morning. We are busy before we were even supposed to be busy. The legal tampering window opens in NFL today. That is in about 2 hours and 10 minutes. Some of you obviously not watching this live, but Monday is the day when teams can begin negotiating with other pending free agents who still technically are under contract with their existing teams. Then on Wednesday, the new league year begins. That is the official opening of free agency. But for all intents and purposes, today is going to be really busy as things get rolling. Today marks a sense of deadline pressure. And that is why we have the very recent news of both Arik Armstead and Kyle Juszczyk being asked to take pay cuts heading into this 2024 season. Now, we already talked about Arik Armstead last night. That was the big 49ers breaking news. He so far has refused to take a pay cut, has not been able to find suitable middle ground with the 49ers. So San Francisco is planning to release Arik Armstead. That is something that we discussed in detail on The Athletic last night. Here you go. 49ers plan to release Arik Armstead. How might the veteran defensive tackle fare in free agency? That is the operative question here, because if Arik Armstead does not get the price that he is looking for in free agency, the next natural question is, well, does he go back to the 49ers and re-sign with them? I don't think anything is a closed book in this case. We simply don't have enough information on the Arik Armstead front to make any declarations because we don't know what the 49ers actually offered him. According to Adam Schefter, the two sides were close to a deal, but Adam Schefter might have gotten his information for the team. We don't know if Arik Armstead believed that he was particularly close to a deal. These are all things that are in the fog of war right now. It is unknown. So the market is ultimately probably going to decide what happens here. The market will determine Arik Armstead's value if the 49ers do release him, or at least do let him talk to other teams. And we're going to have to check back in over the course of the next few days to see exactly how this ends up. Then there's the case of Kyle Juszczyk, the 49ers fullback, who has a cap hit of over $7 million this year, an average annual value to his contract of over $5 million, which is the highest of any fullback in the NFL. Reportedly, according to Adam Kaplan, this came out late last night, the 49ers have also asked Kyle Juszczyk to take a pay cut. What's going to happen here? We don't know. The report was indefinite. The report said that the two sides have yet to work out what the compensation would be for Kyle Juszczyk. I can say that I do think that Kyle Juszczyk wants to be back with the 49ers. I can't say that Kyle Juszczyk is very important to the 49ers, but I can also say that, like Arik Armstead, Kyle Juszczyk does not have any guaranteed money on his contract here in the 2024 season. So let's explain how all of this works to set the table for today. First off, Arik Armstead's 2024 base salary is $17.4 million. You're going to hear a lot of talk about dead money and a lot of talk about financial inefficiency from me. But at the end of the day, savings are savings, and the 49ers can save some money by releasing Arik Armstead. It just wouldn't be particularly efficient. I'm going to show you the over the cap page of Arik Armstead to help illustrate. This is his contract. And you can see that it's extremely long because the 49ers have actually restructured his deal twice. The act of restructuring a contract means converting base salary into signing bonus. By rule, signing and option bonuses are prorated. That means stretched out over a longer period of time, up to 5 years from the time that you give them. You can add void years onto a contract, which is what the 49ers had done with Arik Armstead, to stretch those signing and option bonus totals out further. Technically, he's only under contract through this season. This is Arik Armstead's last season under that 5-year deal that he signed back in 2020 with the 49ers. But some of the signing bonus money and the option bonus money that the 49ers have already paid him stretches out till 2027. What happens if the 49ers do release Arik Armstead is that all of the money that they have paid him through these bonuses has to accelerate and hit the cap sooner. You can designate him for a post-June 1st release to make the portion of the bonuses that isn't supposed to hit until 2025, not hit until 2025 as they were originally supposed to hit, you can do that, but the money doesn't technically free up until June 1st. It might help you a little bit in free agency this year because you could backload deals knowing that you've freed up money later, but it's not like you've all of a sudden got all kinds of spending money right away. The bottom line is that the 49ers have paid Arik Armstead $25.9 million in these bonuses already, and that hasn't hit the cap. 25.9 million still has to be accounted for on the salary cap. It'll either be accounted for as money that goes to Arik Armstead while he's playing for them, but that looks unlikely now because things are trending toward a release since he doesn't want to take a pay cut, or it will hit the salary cap as dead money. So there is no real efficient path forward here if the 49ers have to account for $25.9 million. That being said, savings are savings. And if they do execute a standard release of Arik Armstead in this 2024 cycle without a post-June 1st designation, the 49ers will save $2.5 million on the salary cap. You could see that over here. That would incur $25.9 million, as I just said, in dead money this year. Now, if they put that post-June 1st designation on him, that can make it more palatable if they need more space this season. But ultimately, you have to pay it anyway. If they put that post-June 1st designation on Armstead, that would mean $18 million opens up right away in savings for this season, and $10.3 million money, $10.3 million of this money is dead money. It opens up room in 2024, but it closes off room in 2025. And that's why I'm going to go to our build your roster tool where you actually can cut Arik Armstead if you want. And you could see it doesn't save the 49ers all too much money. It lowers his cap hit from $28.35 million to $25.9 million this year. You go from the old cap hit to the dead money. That still has to count against your cap. But I mainly want to show you the 2025 cap situation because I think that potentially cutting Arik Armstead and then definitely giving him a pay cut this year, that's something that you're doing with the future beyond 2024 in mind, because there is really no good wiggle room if Arik Armstead is unwilling to renegotiate his contract in 2024. You're not going to save all that much. Again, I just showed you, you're only going to save $2 million and change. But in 2025, when you probably have to pay Brock Purdy, where you only have 27 players currently under contract, you can free up some money for then if you execute the Armstead deal now. You could, you're already slated for $15.6 million in dead money in 2025. You can make that hit the cap quicker. Maybe you want to clear the book sooner before you have to pay Brock Purdy. Both sides here are incentivized to do what they're doing. The 49ers want to clear up their cap situation as much as possible, and they want more financial efficiency. When you look at Arik Armstead, he missed 13 games over the past 2 seasons. He's been a very good pass rusher for the 49ers. He's been a key part of their run defense. He's been the blueprint. I understand all of that, but he has been dealing with plantar fasciitis, which is a recurring concern over the past 2 seasons. That's a foot injury that doesn't seem to have gone away for Arik Armstead. And he also played through a torn meniscus during the playoffs last season. Now, the 49ers asked him to take a pay cut after he played through a torn meniscus during the playoffs. He suffered that against Philadelphia. I can imagine that this did not thrill Arik Armstead. Armstead also knows that this past season was his best year pass rushing for the 49ers, even at age 30. Pass rush productivity, PFF tracks it. Armstead ranked number 8. He ranked ahead of Javon Hargrave, who was number 12 amongst defensive tackles, and even ahead of DeForest Buckner, the former 49er, who was number 16. So Armstead, when he was healthy, was a big-time piece for the 49ers, has been a big-time piece for years for the 49ers. In 2021, they moved Arik Armstead from edge to defensive tackle around midseason, and the 49ers went from the number 20 run defense to the number 1 ranked run defense. I mean, this guy has been a big, big deal to the 49ers, and that's before we get into the community work. That's before we get into the locker room leadership. He's been a mentor for somebody like Javon Kinlaw, who I think there's a much higher chance the 49ers bring him back if they do indeed release Arik Armstead. So nobody denying the value of Arik Armstead on the field. The issue, though, has been that he has missed those 13 games in the past 2 seasons, that he is 30 years old now, and that the 49ers feel that because of the games that he has missed, they don't feel that there's real cost efficiency anymore with this contract, with Armstead's base salary being $17.4 million this season. So since base salaries aren't guaranteed, the 49ers went up to Armstead and said, hey, we want to renegotiate your contract. This is not a restructure. We want you to take a pay cut. The column and the cell in question here is this one right here that I've highlighted. 2024 base salary, $17.41 million. 49ers hoping that Armstead, and have hoped that Armstead would take a pay cut on that column. But obviously that hasn't happened yet. If they can lower that number, maybe they can keep him. But I think that, obviously this argument hit ahead last night, when I think it was Jordan Schultz who first reported it. I'm assuming he got that information from Armstead's side, from his agent, that no deal was going to be reached, that Arik Armstead was going to be able to go negotiate as a free agent. But the 49ers are incentivized to lower this number just because of their crowded cap situation. Arik Armstead, with how well he's rushed the passer, how well he's played for the 49ers in run defense, is incentivized to try to get as much money as he possibly can. So the market is going to end up deciding who is right in this situation. So we could look here. We talked yesterday when I wrote this piece with Matt Barrows, we talked about somebody like Justin Matabuki signing a huge deal. We talked about Chris Jones signing a massive deal, the biggest that we've ever seen from defensive tackles. Chris Jones's deal is over $30 million annually. Matabuki's in the high 20 millions. Somebody like Arik Armstead, well, he's slated to play. He hasn't been officially released yet. He's slated to play at $17.4 million this season. That ranks about number 15 amongst defensive tackles. You have somebody like DJ Jones of the Denver Broncos, still technically of the Denver Broncos. There's rumors that he might be released. His annual average value is $10 million. That's around number 25. So what's the fair number for Arik Armstead? What did the 49ers propose to Arik Armstead? Where was this supposed deal heading toward before it obviously fell apart, before there wasn't an agreement? Or the 49ers offer him $10 million, which would be a $7.4 million pay cut. They offer him $5 million, which would probably be very insulting considering the fact that Armstead played through the torn meniscus last year. That'd be something like a $12 million pay cut. I don't know. And then who's willing to pay Arik Armstead on the open market? That's the operative question here. If the Houston Texans with DeMeco Ryans are willing to pay him $15 million a year, $20 million a year, I don't know how much they'd be willing to pay him. But if they're willing to pay that much and the 49ers aren't, well, that would be the market telling the 49ers, you guys aren't willing to play ball here with Arik Armstead. Now, if that number comes in lower from other teams, if he can't generate traction with other teams, my big question is, did this leave on a cordial note, or is this now in hostile territory to where Arik Armstead wouldn't be willing to come back to the 49ers? Did he feel particularly lowballed in this situation? And did that burn a bridge of negotiation? This is why you don't burn bridges, right? This is why you try to, and again, nobody on the outside knows what's going on as far as the tenor of this discussion. But if this was handled cordially and Arik Armstead simply is betting on himself and wants to see his value on the outside, there is a non-zero chance that he can come back to the table with the 49ers. We actually saw that happen last season with Darius Slay and the Philadelphia Eagles, their cornerback. All the reports indicated that Darius Slay was going to be released as a cap casualty, that obviously the Eagles and Darius Slay could not get on the same page financially. They needed him to take a pay cut, and he wasn't going to do it. The very next day, there was a total 180. Darius Slay signed a new deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. So stuff like this can turn around. I just think that we don't have enough data right now to know the exact probabilities of what's going to happen. Because again, Armstead played through that torn meniscus last year. The plantar fasciitis has been a concern. It's something that can absolutely depress his market value. It's obviously depressed the 49ers' judgment of his worth to them because they asked him to take a pay cut from that base salary of $17.4 million. But you can see when you do take a look at the 49ers cap situation, not just this season, but also the next, you can see why this is so important for the 49ers. Why at every single corner they are wanting to try to save some money. They're trying to be as cost efficient as possible. And it's not just Armstead. It also goes on to Kyle Juszczyk, whom the 49ers have asked to take a pay cut as well. If you look at the 2025 cap sheet, Juszczyk is at $7.6 million cap hit next season. This season, it's also big. This season, he's also at $7.6 million. By the way, if you cut Kyle Juszczyk, I don't think that'd be particularly good for the 49ers, but you can cut him using the 2024 cap tool right there. And I have to put the option in there for Kyle Juszczyk. It's $2.68 million, though, the cap hit if you cut him this year versus $7.59 million. You could save almost $5 million. So you do have some leverage in the Kyle Juszczyk situation if you're the 49ers, because none of his salary is guaranteed for this 2024 season. That being said, he's an absolutely unique weapon, especially in Shanahan's system. And I don't think that that's a player they're rushing to get rid of. They're just rushing to try to find financial efficiency with some of these players at the margins. And it's the guys who don't have guarantees in their base salary that the 49ers are most incentivized to approach and ask to take a pay cut. I think the vital note here is that the bigger picture build is absolutely imperative to keep in mind. The 49ers curtailing spending at defensive tackle by asking Arik Armstead to take a pay cut and potentially releasing him. Do they turn around in 2 hours and try to make a huge splash on the edge rusher market instead? Somebody like, I don't know, Danielle Hunter, we've talked about him a lot, will be available. Did they turn around and try to make a splash at both edge rusher and along the interior offensive line with somebody like Robert Hunt, who we've talked about? It's all on the table for the 49ers. The operative truth remains in play, and that is this team is still built to invest and expand the talent level on this roster. That being said, in order to do that in a sustainable level, they do have to make sure that any potential financial inefficiencies are corrected right now. We got news breaking. This is from Adam Schefter. Bengals franchise wide receiver T. Higgins has requested a trade, per sources. Higgins loves Cincinnati and hoped to be with the team long term, but is disappointed that the team has not had any talks about a long-term contract extension since March 2023. He's ready to move on to a new home. That is from Schefter, just posted on Twitter. So Higgins, franchise tagged, wants to be traded. So you can tell that some of this stuff is starting to speed up. Teams executing very, very significant parts of their roster construction processes this week. That includes the 49ers, who are trying to be as financially free as possible so they can retain their core and make some of these big splashes. Has Armstead been a part of the core? Absolutely. I think so. But is Armstead on the wrong side of 30? Yes. The 49ers see that. And I think that in an ideal world, they wouldn't want to release him. I think they would want him to take that pay cut. He obviously hasn't agreed to that, though. And the 49ers have, it's a balancing act of several different interests. And one of the interests is making sure that they're financially capable of building this roster as strong as it possibly can be. And that means not just looking at the defensive tackle position, but also looking at the whole roster. And maybe if you want to zoom in, looking at that edge rusher spot, looking at how do you bookend Nick Bosa. There is somebody like Danielle Hunter out there. Hell, maybe even Joey Bosa will be out there. Maybe Khalil Mack will be available. We'll see what the Chargers do with them. But this is an exciting time for the 49ers, which is why we built our roster builder for you, so you can actually play around with the different possibilities. I can toss this back on the screen. This is the roster builder. You can go ahead and check this out up on The Athletic. All of the machinations are possible. You can cut Juszczyk. You can, well, maybe I should add a pay cut possibility for Juszczyk. I'm not exactly sure what the 49ers would proposed to Kyle Juszczyk and what they have proposed to Kyle Juszczyk, but I do know that his base salary this year is about $5.7 million, the second highest fullback in the NFL. I have this on my Twitter. We can look at this. Maybe I should even put this up on the screen. Here are the fullback base. Well, here are the fullback average per years. So this is going to be a good reference point. Juszczyk's at 5.4 million. Alec Ingold is 2 at 4 million. Patrick Ricard is number 3 at 3.8 million. So I'm guessing that the 49ers, they said, hey, we still want you to be the top paid fullback in the league. That's fine. But they probably approach Juszczyk with a pay cut of about $1 million to $1.5 million. Keep him above number 2 and number 3 in terms of average per year when it comes to how much he's making here in 2024. And according to Adam Kaplan, the two sides have yet to have middle ground. But the 49ers obviously still control the destiny here. They have Juszczyk under contract for the next 2 seasons, but they do want to make the contract more cost efficient. They control the destiny with Arik Armstead, whose base salary is $17.4 million. I don't know what they want the number to be. I don't know if it's $10 million. I don't know if it's less than that. I don't know if they've asked for a $3 million pay cut. It seems that at some point Armstead would have been amenable to it. I don't know what that point is, but Armstead, with the stance that he is taking right now, betting on himself, and it does appear to be trending toward him being able to test that open market. And I think that the market will ultimately decide what happens here. If he gets a big offer elsewhere, well, and the 49ers say, hey, yeah, we do want to release you. You're not willing to take that pay cut. We're not willing to pay you at $17.4 million this year. Well, then Armstead will obviously sign elsewhere. But if he doesn't get a big offer elsewhere, that offer isn't better than the one the 49ers are willing to give. And again, we don't know those numbers. We're operating in the fog of war here. If that happens, I think there's a chance that Arik Armstead is back. But yeah, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier. What I think is so interesting is that it's not like Arik Armstead has declined as a player. I think that availability has obviously been a big time concern. It remains a concern with plantar fasciitis, the foot condition being something that hasn't gone away over the past 2 years. But again, he was number 8 amongst defensive tackles in pass rushing productivity this past season. He's been a pillar of the 49ers run defense. And there's a vacuum at that defensive tackle position if you look at the roster without him, especially projecting forward into 2025 with who isn't signed yet, or 2024 with who isn't signed yet. Javon Kinlaw's not under contract. Kevin Givens isn't under contract. You've got Javon Hargrave and then guys like T.Y. McGill. You're going to have to spruce up that defensive tackle position for sure if Arik Armstead is no longer around. That's why I said it's probably going to be Javon Kinlaw re-signing with the 49ers. I would think that they would try to bring him back if Armstead isn't going to be around. But, I mean, he's been a fixture in the middle. He's been a fixture in the locker room. He's the longest tenured 49er. He's been part of the team since 2015, drafted in the first round out of Oregon by Trent Baalke. They call him the blueprint because he does everything exactly the way they need him to do it. He is a great guy to have in the building. All of those things explain why Armstead doesn't want to take a pay cut, why Armstead believes in himself on the open market. Meanwhile, the availability, and we say that availability is the best availability, that issue combined with the 49ers cap situation, which I delve into so deeply in all of these pieces of work right here. All of that explains why the 49ers want that number to be lower, and therefore we have an impasse between Armstead and the 49ers. And it sounds like something similar might be brewing with Kyle Juszczyk on a smaller scale. That being said, Juszczyk has been available. He's been healthy. He's a unique weapon, especially in Shanahan's system. And it would surprise me if the 49ers were proposing something to Kyle Juszczyk that would make him not the highest paid fullback. He's the highest paid fullback by quite a bit. So there's some leeway here. There's some wiggle room here if the 49ers are going to try to ask him to take a pay cut. And we'll get more details over time. I am going to take some questions here. It is, well, we are about an hour and 45 minutes away from the beginning of the legal tampering period. So let's open this up to a 49ers Q&A on this beautiful Monday morning. Stelios asks, would you rather have another star edge rusher or secure the O-line? I wonder if you can do both. Well, you're going to have to use the draft, I think, if you're going to go out. And I don't think you could look at this as just free agency. You've got 11 picks in the draft. Those are going to be the most cost-controllable options. I think you've got to hit on both to fortify this roster as much as possible. You know, going out and getting a guy like Robert Hunt, going out and getting a guy like Danielle Hunter. You know, if you do both of those things in free agency, it's going to be really expensive. Can the 49ers afford it? Well, maybe that's why they're reshuffling these deck chairs the way that they're trying to reshuffle them right now with Armstead and Juszczyk. Maybe they're trying to be as prudent and efficient at every single existing juncture possible so they can go out and make a couple big splashes. I think the more likely scenario, though, is the 49ers make about one big splash in free agency, really fortify through the draft, and try to trim as much contractual fat as possible with existing deals so that they are set for the transition to Brock Purdy's mega deal in 2025. I think that's the most likely scenario. That's the one that I outlined when I built my roster. But yeah, you know, it's one of those things where we just have to wait and see. We just have to wait and see what the 49ers do. They probably have several possibilities. Entering today with option power, entering free agency in the draft with option power is the best way to go. You're not married to any specific plan. You're just trying to create as many options as possible. You're asking about the cap space, the 19.9 million. That I'm operating on a 53-man cap, which I think is more useful in terms of building a roster in the 2024 season. Right now in the offseason, only the 53 or 51 most valuable contracts count against the salary cap. Once the season starts, it will be the 53. It will be the actual roster plus the practice squad. So what I've done here with this tool is projected what the 53-man roster will look like. As you can see, 41 of 53 spots are taken, and the 49ers have 19 million to fill the final 12 spots and build the practice squad. I think it's a better exercise to look at it this way than it is to look at it through offseason space. I get it. They're right up against the cap when you consider 51 players instead of 41 right now. But they're not egregiously over it, and they'll be able to get under by Wednesday, either through this Armstead move or through other restructures. It's about the big picture for me, and that's why I'm looking at this with $19 million in cap space. What's the cost difference between paying Armstead his current contract and letting him walk? The cost difference is what you could save. It depends on if you're talking 2024, 2025 cap space, but I think you have to look at it in the big picture. You have to include 2025 because that's when you have to pay Purdy. Letting Armstead play at his current contract means you pay him his $17.4 million base salary this year. So you save that plus a little bit more in bonuses. You save about $18 million if you let Arik Armstead walk. I don't think it's an all or nothing from the 49ers perspective, though. I think they want to pay Armstead somewhere in between, obviously, the league minimum at $1 million to the $18 million that he's scheduled to make. I don't know what they offered, but it falls somewhere in between that range. Maybe they offered him $10 million. Arik Armstead said no. So the 49ers said, well, we'd rather release you than pay you the $17.4 million. We'd rather save the $18 million than, have to splurge that on a player who's been unavailable for 13 games over the past 2 seasons. So there are significant potential savings here because unused cap space carries over from season to season. The 49ers are in a position right now where I think they obviously want Arik Armstead, but only at their price. And Arik Armstead is saying, fine, I'm going to I'm going to refuse to take that pay cut. You can release me if you want to. I'm going to test things out on the open market. It's just that you could call it a game of hardball. You can call it a game of chicken, whatever you want to call it. The 49ers and Arik Armstead are at a standoff, and it's reached a point where the 49ers have said that this is, or have indicated through these reports that this is trending toward a release. There is dead money if Arik Armstead leaves. You still save the $18 million that you don't pay him. The dead money here, again, to explain this, and this, I know, I get it. This is probably something I'm not going to have to explain a lot. This is what you can save. You can save $17,410 plus per game roster bonus and workout bonus money. So you could save over $18 million if Arik Armstead is cut, but you still have to pay the cap charge for all of this. The prorated signing bonus, $8.8 million, plus the option bonus proration, $1.5 million, plus next year's prorated signing bonus, $5.6 million, plus next year's option bonus proration, $1.5 million, plus a signing bonus proration in 2026 for $5.6 million, plus a 2027 signing bonus proration of about $3 million. You still have to pay all of that on the salary cap, and it all adds up to $25.9 million in dead money. You can determine how you want to stomach that dead money. If you want all of it to hit this year, if you want to stave off a good $15 million until next year. But either way, if you release him, there's going to be dead money. But there will also be savings this season because he wouldn't play under this salary if you cut him, because it's not guaranteed. So you could save money while still incurring dead money. You can save money by releasing Armstead. It just isn't particularly efficient, which is something that might disincentivize the 49ers from doing this, but they've apparently weighed their options. They said, hey, some savings are better than no savings. We're willing to take this hit because we're not willing to see Arik Armstead play on a very financially inefficient contract. I'm sure it's been a difficult decision for the 49ers. I'm sure they still hope that Arik Armstead comes back to the negotiating table like Darius Slay did for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. But business is business, and that's the point that the 49ers are at with this right now. It's going to be fascinating. Deadlines often spur action. Let's watch what Arik Armstead means to the 49ers video. This is their former defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks. The 49ers put this out, talking to the team to present the nomination for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award to Arik Armstead.
Great morning. Hey, before we get started, okay, we need to recognize one of your teammates, okay? This guy, it is his fourth consecutive year that he has been nominated for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, okay? And that is Arik Armstead. Not only is he doing great things on the field, but he's doing outstanding things in the community. His mission and his foundation is trying to provide each student, regardless of their economic or social background, a fair chance to be able to succeed in life. So I wanted to be able to recognize him publicly right here, as well as some of his teammates.
I kid you not, we'll be in the locker room and everyone will wait for Arik to start going to meetings, because they're like, as long as you're in front of Arik, you're good, because they're not going to get mad at him. He's been here the longest. He's the blueprint. And they call him that.
Since I've been on this team, you've been a staple and a major role model for me in every way that you could ever imagine. It's bar none what you do for the Bay Area, especially Sacktown. I've leaned on you for so long, man, and I don't know what I'd be doing right now or where my career would be at if it weren't for you.
See you make it this far, as successful as you are off the field, on the field, in the community, as a father, as a husband, just have a leader like you there leading us the way. It's a big deal, man, so I really do appreciate you.
And I can just tell, how you walk around, how you carry yourself, that, you really care about your teammates, you really care about your team. Definitely a leader in my eyes, on and off the field.
I just wanted to congratulate you. Ever since I came into the league, you've been a leader to me, and you've shown me the way not only on the field but off the field with how you attack community work and keep doing amazing work. I love you, man.
It's so much of my progression so far in my short career has been, a testament to just having that guidance from you, brother. So thankful for you, and I wish nothing but success, and I'm just happy to be a part of it, with you every step of the way. Love you.
Nah, I was fighting too. I love that dude. Like words can't even describe. Like I love that dude. For real, for real.
They always surprise me in an amazing way, but having my teammates be a part of that brings, a lot of joy to me. I believe in humanity. I believe I'm a small part of billions of people on this earth. In small ways, I can have a positive impact on the people around me, you guys, in my community, and on this team. It's been amazing, a huge blessing to be here. I've been a part of majority of you guys' careers, getting to see you guys grow and develop as people, become, get married, become fathers. It's been an amazing experience I don't take for granted, and I'm just happy and appreciative and thankful to God, that He, continues to bless me and put me in this position to be a blessing, hopefully to other people. So I'm excited to continue this journey, with you guys this season and, moving forward. So love you guys, man. Appreciate y'all.
So that was the 49ers tribute to Arik Armstead, Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. You heard them call him the blueprint. He's been so important to this team, the longest tenured 49er. Remember that. So this is not something that is coming easily to the 49ers. That's for sure. This is something that I think that they've been straining through, that they obviously hope still might turn around. And that's why I keep on repeating, the ink has not dried on this yet. This is something that's trending toward the direction of a release. A release could also still happen, and Arik Armstead can test the market and still potentially come back. When you examine how important he's been to this team, you cannot rule out that possibility. I've done a lot of examining of how important Arik Armstead is to the 49ers. I wrote this article this season, why the 49ers' Javon Kinlaw sees Arik Armstead as his guiding light through NFL adversity. This is one that I think you'll definitely want to check out, because Javon Kinlaw is set to become an unrestricted free agent this week. And that means that the 49ers are really thin at defensive tackle if you take Arik Armstead out of the mix. Obviously hasn't officially happened yet, but you have to project into the future. I do wonder if a Javon Kinlaw reunion, and Kinlaw improved a lot. And if you read this, he really credits Arik Armstead for turning his career around. They're very similar body types. So they've turned into similar types of players. Javon Kinlaw's pass rushing got a whole heck of a lot better this past year. It could be as simple as the 49ers are ready to move on to a cheaper alternative and Javon Kinlaw, who was developed under Arik Armstead. But I think that in an ideal world, the 49ers would want to have both of these guys back. They were happy with the way that they delivered, especially down the stretch in the playoffs this season. Armstead was good in the postseason, even though he's playing on a torn meniscus, and Javon Kinlaw was playing some of his best football to end the season. So how will the 49ers stock that defensive tackle position, assuming Armstead is gone? Maybe Kinlaw is somebody that they re-sign, that they have a little bit more money to re-sign. But I mentioned it earlier, they've got Javon Hargrave, who isn't great against the run. He's a pass rusher. And then it drops down to T.Y. McGill right now as far as players under contract in 2025, if you exclude Armstead from the mix. So the importance of Armstead on that locker room, you heard Nick Bosa talking as well. I mean, he is the blueprint. They call him that. He is important to this football team. He is somebody that they absolutely will have to replace if this continues going in the direction that it has been going in. And it's going to be fascinating to see how they do that if we do indeed reach that bridge. And I know I'm speaking in so many hypotheticals right now, but that's all that I can do, because this is an ongoing process. It's a negotiation. It's a negotiation that obviously took a turn toward Armstead not returning last night. But it still is an ongoing process, so we'll see what ends up happening. All right, so today we're going to be monitoring the Armstead situation. We're going to be monitoring the Kyle Juszczyk situation. The 49ers have asked both to take pay cuts. Both are still technically on the roster. The legal tampering window begins in an hour and a half, 90 minutes from now. Teams can begin negotiating with free agents who are on expiring deals with other teams. That's going to mark some deadline pressure. The market forces can start coming into this equation, especially for Arik Armstead. If the 49ers do give him permission to talk to other teams to gauge his market value, we'll see how San Francisco proceeds there. But with the market forces entering the equation, another push of deadline pressure is here, and that should lead to some resolution. We'll see if that resolution means the 49ers letting go of somebody like Arik Armstead, and we'll also see what if the resulting savings, we'll see what the 49ers do as far as spending elsewhere. We'll see if they decide to stock up at that edge rusher position. Obviously, big names like Danielle Hunter are out there. We have a list of the top free agents who the 49ers might be interested in that we wrote up on The Athletic. One of them is already re-signed with his team, but we have Danielle Hunter up there. That's Kendrick Bourne in the middle. He re-signed, the former 49er, re-signed with the New England Patriots yesterday. And then there's Quan Alexander. I think the 49ers might be interested in an off-ball linebacker with Dre Greenlaw recovering from a torn Achilles. So good opportunity for the 49ers to improve their football team. And it just seems there is a lot going on right now because they're also trying to sustainably build this. And that means paying attention to the salary cap, both this year's cap and also the 2025 and beyond situation. So Arik Armstead might not be on this roster long as the 49ers try to figure out how to shuffle everything around and build the best team possible leaving this offseason. I will put this down back at the bottom of the screen. The vital note is this is about the big picture build. It's not just about one transaction. It's looking at how each area of spending affects other areas of spending. And when you zoom out and you see that Brock Purdy has to get paid next year, I've been talking about it all off season. The 49ers are in a tight spot, but they're not in an impossible spot. They're trying to maintain as much salary cap flexibility as possible. Sometimes the way to do that is to move on from a guy a year too early rather than a year too late if you can't find that middle ground. And so far, the 49ers have not been able to find it. But still a lot to happen this week. There's a lot that must be developed. This is not a situation where the ink has dried. That's for sure. So stay tuned. I'll be with you every step of the way. I'll be explaining the financial machinations. Right now, it's a standoff. It is a game of hardball. It is a game of chicken. And we will see how it all ends with market forces, that open market coming in to help mold the clay, to help shape how this is all going to work moving forward. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and we will talk to you very soon.